Although today, very few people are at risk in terms of actually contracting the coronavirus, that could change, and I think it's always wise to be prepared from a community and a country level.
The best advice I can give, and common sense advice I would say to Canadians, is before you travel for the March break, make sure you register and make sure you know where you're going, because this situation with the coronavirus is evolving by the hour.
The global coronavirus outbreak has reached a tipping point. For the first time, there are now more new cases reported from countries outside of China than from China. Greece, Pakistan, Algeria, and Brazil all reported their first confirmed cases today. There are now more than 81,000 cases worldwide, and that includes recent spikes in South Korea, Italy, and of course, Iran. Ontario reported its fifth case of coronavirus today and is waiting confirmation via testing. The woman had recently traveled to Iran. Next hour, U.S. President at 6:30 p.m., Trump is scheduled to deliver a press conference on the coronavirus threat alongside health officials. Those officials warned yesterday this outbreak is likely to become a pandemic. So what could this mean for Canadian athletes who are bound for the Tokyo Games in July? Dick Pound is a senior member, of course, of the International Olympic Committee. I spoke with him earlier from Montreal. Hi, Mr. Pound. Thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
I wanted to start off by asking you about some comments you made to the Associated Press. Can you just clarify for us, given everything that's going on with coronavirus, your view at this point of how it potentially could affect the Olympics?
Well, what we're doing at the moment is proceeding on the basis that the Games will start in Tokyo on July 24th as anticipated and as we've worked with Tokyo for almost 7 years now. There is an elephant in the room, however, and that's the extent of this particular coronavirus, and that might have an impact down the road somewhere. But as of now, we're still aiming for the July 24th opening ceremony. But there's an elephant in the room, and that is that this virus may turn into a pandemic, and the decisions on whether to have the Games on schedule or not will be taken out of the hands of both the Tokyo organizers and the IOC by the public health authorities.
Let me just ask you about that, follow up on that. So if it is declared a pandemic, when you say it's sort of taken out of the IOC's hands or out of organizers' hands, what specifically does that mean?
Well, if it's determined that it really is a very serious virus and a danger to public health, I think much as those of us in the sport business like the idea of the Olympic Games, world public health is even more important. But the issue is right now we don't know, and it would be premature to make any change of direction until we have a better idea of what the virus is. You know, we're at the height of the traditional flu season as we speak, and traditionally that season peaks and goes down considerably in the spring and the summer. So if that happens, that's an issue that's going to be important. Secondly, if the mortality is not as bad as people fear it might be, that's another factor. If it affects a particular demographic only of people who are elderly and generally infirm anyway, that's another factor, and the cure rate is a factor. So there's all kinds of moving parts out here that we don't know, and we're monitoring it every day with the World Health Organization and the related agencies with which it works, and we'll see.
Taking those efforts and the points that you're making into account, is there a timeline through which or by which a decision would have to be made?
Well, it's a little arbitrary, but I mean, if you go to the last month before the Games, people are starting to arrive. People are working there, teams and team officials and so on. So at some point you have to decide what to do, and we will be actively seeking the advice of the public health authorities. I mean, as far as we're concerned, unless they tell us that we can't do this, we're going to go ahead and stay with the Games. Now, we don't want to put people in high-risk situations, and that's why we're not going to decide the public health issue sides of this. We will seek advice and decide how and to what extent to rely on it.
I just want to clarify, because in the Associated Press article, I think you had mentioned a 3-month window which could be pushed to 2 months. Where does that stand?
That was simply to point out that at some point you have to decide whether it's 1 month or 2 months. For me, that's how long is a piece of string. The point is that at some stage you've got to decide.
And is there, I hope this isn't an ignorant question, because I know this isn't how it's done normally, but given the circumstances now and understanding that obviously it's a fluid situation and assessments are being made continually, is there a so-called plan B? Could they, be postponed? Could they be moved? Or would it have to be a full-out cancellation?
I think once you decide that you can't go ahead, then you start looking for the plan B, and I'm sure there are lots of, chalkings on blackboards here and there. But I mean, the worst case is a cancellation, period. The second worst is a delay for a certain period of time, and if that looks like it might be feasible, then you have to sit down with the Tokyo authorities and the Japanese authorities at large and say, listen, can you folks hold this together for let's say a year? Will the facilities all still be available? Will the Olympic Village be available? Will the tickets and hotel reservations and all that sort of stuff be transferable to the suggested replacement dates? And the Japanese and the IOC will have to decide on that. I mean, the sport side, it's going to be inconvenient, but sport events can be moved without there being major impacts, and that part of it's relatively easy. It would be, can Japan do this, and does it want to do it?
At this point, are there any discussions about, like sort of official level discussions taking place about the potential impact of the virus on the timing of the Games? I
doubt that there are official discussions. Certainly the IOC and Tokyo are monitoring things with the World Health Organization, and those data change every day with new cases, cure rates going up, and all that sort of stuff. But we don't have a plan B because we don't need one at this point. There'll be a meeting of the IOC Executive Board, I think, next week in Lausanne. The Tokyo organizers will be present either electronically or in person, and you'll have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that discussion may start as early as then.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you, Mr. Pound. I appreciate your time very much.
Anytime.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.